You ever just stop and look up at a skyscraper and wow, you just marvel at its strength, right? The buildings all around us, they feel so permanent, so solid. But, there's a hidden life to their materials, a whole story about their environmental impact that we almost never think about. So let's get into it. It really all boils down to this one question. Are they part of the problem or part of the solution? Because the very structures that shelter us, that inspire us, well, they're at a crossroads. And the choices we're making right now are going to define the world we live in. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, think about this number. Almost 8%. 8% of all global CO2 emissions come from just one thing, making cement. The main ingredient in concrete. That's more than the entire airline industry, all the planes in the sky. So yeah, this one material kind of shows you the massive carbon footprint we're dealing with. So all that incredible strength, that permanence we admire in our cities, well, it comes with a pretty big environmental price tag, a cost that's been, baked into how we've built things for over 100 years. This really lays out the core issue perfectly. On one hand, you've got concrete and steel. I mean, they're the undisputed kings of construction for a reason. They are unbelievably strong and super reliable. But that strength has a dark side. Making them uses a ton of energy, which makes them huge contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, so to talk about this, there's a key term we've got to know: embodied carbon. Now, this isn't the energy the building uses for heating and lights later on. Nope. This is the upfront carbon cost. It's all the emissions released just to get the materials dug up, made, and put together before anyone even steps foot inside. But here's the good news. Facing this challenge has sparked some absolutely incredible innovation. Seriously. We're now starting to fundamentally rethink the very materials we build with, moving away from just brute strength to a philosophy of, intelligent, sustainable design. And this changes everything. For decades, structural efficiency just meant using less material to get more strength. That's it. But now, the definition is so much bigger. It's about getting the best performance with the least amount of material and the least environmental damage. It's a total reevaluation of what good design actually is. So what makes a material green anyway? Turns out it's a whole checklist. We're looking for stuff that's super strong, but also lightweight. We want it to have low embodied energy, so it's not carbon intensive to produce. But it's also about the long game, right? It needs to be durable, and at the end of its life, you've got to be able to reuse or recycle it. It's this whole holistic view of performance. Okay, so with this new mindset, what are architects and engineers actually reaching for? Well, their toolbox is getting a major upgrade with some incredible new materials that are changing the game. Just check out some of the heavy hitters we have now. You've got engineered timber like cross-laminated timber or CLT. This stuff is a total game changer because it actually stores carbon. Then there's green concrete, which can slash emissions by using industrial waste products. And of course, recycled steel, which uses way less energy than making new steel and can literally be recycled forever. And that's really just the beginning. The innovation is wild. We're seeing amazing potential in stuff like bamboo, which grows super fast and has a tensile strength that can compete with steel. And then there's hempcrete, which is not only structural, but also an incredible natural insulator. This brings us to a really crucial shift in how we think. To truly get a building's impact, we can't just look at the materials by themselves. We have to look at its entire existence, from the very beginning to the very end. And the tool we use for this is called a life cycle assessment, or LCA. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a nutrition label for a building. It's a really systematic way to measure the total environmental cost of a structure, looking at every single stage of its life. And that life has 5 main stages. It all starts with extraction, getting the raw materials out of the ground. Then you manufacture them into building products. Then comes the actual construction. After that, you've got decades of operation, all the heating, cooling, maintenance. And finally, the end of life, where we figure out if the building gets demolished, reused, or recycled. An LCA tracks the impact of every single one of those steps.
So where is all of this heading? Well, the future is even more exciting. We're starting to move beyond just sustainable materials and into the realm of regenerative ones, structures that can actively heal themselves and even heal the environment.
For example, take mycelium. It's the root network of fungi. You can actually grow it into building components that are lightweight, strong, and completely biodegradable. Yeah, We are literally talking about building with mushrooms, creating structures that are carbon negative and can just return to the earth when they're done. How cool is that? Or what about concrete that heals itself? I'm not kidding. Researchers are embedding specific bacteria into concrete mixes. When a tiny crack forms and water gets in, it wakes up the bacteria and they produce limestone, sealing the crack from the inside out. This could dramatically extend a building's lifespan and cut way down on repairs. And really, this is the holy grail, right? Creating buildings that aren't just carbon neutral, but actually carbon negative. We're talking about structures made from mass timber that lock away carbon for centuries, or advanced concretes that literally pulls CO2 out of the air as they cure. The building itself becomes a weapon in the fight against climate change. So, the next time you look at a building, don't just see a static object. See it as a dynamic choice, a choice between the old way and a new, sustainable future. It's a future where our buildings don't just stand strong, but they stand for something better. A future where we truly build structures that do more than just hold things up, they inspire. The only real question is, what kind of future will we choose to build?